Welcome to the Gnostic Rebellion. Today we're speaking with Dr. Joshua Pritikin, author of a wonderfully interesting book that deals with a core theme here at the Gnostic Rebellion and the Gnostic book that deals with I'm sorry, and the Gnostic Church of Light. Religion Unburdened by Belief is the name of the book. We'll introduce him in a moment, but you'll find immediately below this video, in the description, you'll find a link for our donation button at uh, PayPal, and this program supports the Gnostic Church of Light. It's an historic building, and we invite you to become part of our historic congregation. We're the first fully owned and operating Gnostic church on the continents of the Americas, and your donations are tax deductible. While you do that, we'll extend this blessing. May wisdom and divine providence increase the unique genius of our congregation and bring us to health, wealth, and increase of days. Okay. Having earned his PhD in psychometrics in quantitative psychology from the University of Virginia, Dr. Joshua Pritikin, during his academic career, contributed to 10 peer reviewed publications and now maintains a practice in White City, Oregon. He runs Estrella Counseling and holds a level 3 certification with the IFS Institute, which perhaps we'll talk about a little bit later. But it is his book, Religion Unburdened by Belief, that brings us here today. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. And we just got through the intro that we've been putting for all these parts, and I hope you had a chance to make a donation. Welcome again to the Gnostic Rebellion. We're here again with Dr. Joshua Pritikin. Really just having the time of our lives going through this book. And we've had an email exchange recently, and Dr. Pritikin turned the screws to me. So we're going to let him start the questioning.
Okay. So I guess I want to start today, but just by reviewing the Varela-Schwartz model and practice applying it to an arbitrary situation. Like since this I claim it's a model of waking experience, or just like ordinary, so you should be able to pick any waking experience, and then we could analyze it. So maybe Paul, if you could pick some moment that we could look at, and then we could try applying the model to that moment.
Okay. I guess most forward on my mind right now is just a tiny little tiff that I had with my wife. So, we won't get too personal with that, but just arguing over whether the dog should go out could go out the back door while we were bringing in the groceries. And it was just like she wanted to do it her way, and my own little ego came in, and I just wanted to hold the dog. Come on and bring it in, and she's like, "No, I'll put it down over here, and I'll go get more." And it was one of those little things. And I came upstairs to get the Yankee game on because I was in a rush to get to the Yankee game anyway, and I let her bring the groceries in. So in that moment, I was just frustrated enough with her. You want it your way, good. You do everything, and I was angry, or I could say I am angry.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is like you were blended with a frustrated or angry part, and then you had also expressed like your expectations for how something should be done, how the dog should be managed, and she had also, so that would be like a first person, outward first person expression, like self-reporting how you feel the dog should be managed. And she also expressed her opinion, so that would also be from her point of view, like she was self-reporting about what her expectations were. And then I guess both of you were like had a we're also in the stance of like second person, outward second person, where you try to understand and clarify, what another person is saying. So hopefully both of you were also listening.
Well, I think, and this is probably not uncommon in married life. I didn't need to know what she expected. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? I already knew.
Okay.
Okay. She always wants it done this way, and I sometimes forget that because I'm nonchalanting that, and so she surprises me with her exaggerated worrying, and I know it's there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to change it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not frustrated with that, although in that moment I could be. Um, but I don't think I'm carrying any overall frustration. She's going to win. Happy wife, happy life, as they say, right? So you got to kind of just let it. But, can I have my way once? And I shut the door the way she wanted it, maybe a little bit more brisk than I should have, and but not much. Um, and came upstairs and I figured, okay, we'll just create some safe distance. And, if anything, in a certain sense, it's my fault. She's unyielding, but, I should recognize it.
Okay.
I didn't marry her to change her and I don't live to change her.
Okay. So what you're saying is you didn't need to listen to her, so we wouldn't call that like a second person outward stance, but you were like unblended with uh, like a part of you that's like represents her expectations or her opinions about um, how the dog should be treated, or exactly what the matter was. The door,
She
closing
thinks
the
the
door or
dog is
something.
going to run in. We went and bought these little cheap doggy gates out the
Okay.
back door because if
Yeah.
the dog gets out without a leash, she's a trained rabbit hunter. She'll
Okay.
just
Okay.
walk. We'll wait for her to come back. So uh, she wants that outer gate shut before the door's open, but I'm holding the dog. She's got bags of groceries in her hand. Just come on in. You know what I'm saying? I'll put the dog down. I'll get out. No, she wants to put the latch on the gate. But I always, I accept it, and the way I get back at her, I just call her a blonde. She's a blonde, and I have to live. And then I give her a blonde joke. Um, so I know all of that's there. I know she's hyper cautious. She doesn't drive because of her vertigo, and she's always hitting the brake from the passenger side in the car.
Mhm.
I tell her, honey, do you see any smashings on the front of my car? It's been that way for years.
Okay, right. So you're relating from like an inward third person perspective. You're with parts of your wife like that are like or representations of her that you've internalized.
Yes, I have those representations, and I have judgments on those representations, etc. Um, and I don't think I take it to the point of presumptuousness, but I expect her behavior.
And
And
that's fair. I'm not accusing you of presumptuousness.
yeah, I just always keep trying to check myself because I'm a pretty gruff character, so you know sometimes I come across gruff when I don't mean to.
Okay. So based on our discussion, like it sounds like for you, you were in this like an inward stance of blended and unblended, and in an outward stance of like self-report, and less so, maybe a little bit, an outward stance of like understanding, of being listening, like attentive to your wife. Although mostly it was you were basing your actions on like your internalized representation of your wife. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
yeah. What I'm curious about is you say I became unblended.
Well, both. you were both blended and unblended, like in different.
Okay, so when
There
I
were
said
different
I
parts
am
of you.
angry, that would be the unblended coming out of me. What was blended?
Oh, I see. Okay, uh, so what you're saying is you were unblended with all these parts. Like um, you felt angry, but you didn't slam the door. Like it didn't control your behavior.
Well, I pushed the door a little harder than I should. I didn't go, yeah. You know what
Okay,
I'm
so
saying?
like a little bit
Stay
blended.
out there. Yeah, stay outside. You know what I'm saying? Uh, um, you know, I'm trying to understand what you're saying here. So, um, in that moment, I am angry or I am frustrated or whatever, however we want to describe the feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and I, to begin to look at that, I'm going to unblend this part of my personality. And that part of my personality, I am angry now, I'm putting over here.
Okay.
Coming back to me, there's still I am. Now, is this the blended character remaining, or do I do something that's going to blend me? Or did I do something that blended me?
No, as soon as the parts are not controlling your behavior, like you're unblended from them. So that's the test. Is like,
Okay.
is the part controlling my behavior?
Oh, okay. So my anger that I was living in that part in the moment, that became unblended from all the other parts of me.
Well, I mean, you were just angry and frustrated for a few moments, and it didn't influence your behavior to a large extent. It was just like a very small extent.
Stopping up the stairs or whatever, I sat down, I put on the Yankee game, time for a little bit of chill.
Okay.
And hit
Uh,
this.
okay, right. So you at most you were slightly blended with those parts, and then unblended from them pretty easily
So
after you
I
got
was,
upstairs.
if you say slightly blended with those parts, that's all the other parts of me, right? I mean, I
No,
am
no, I'm
angry. It's one small part of me.
right. Yeah. So you can be um, blended with a small part of yourself. Like it blended is not like a global state. It's not like you're blended with all your parts at once. Like the uh, because you like not all your parts can control your behavior at the same time. Like
Correct.
that would it would be chaos, right? So typically people are only blended with one part at a time,
In
or
Nietzsche's Will
they
to Power, the one part, if you're functioning correctly, the one part that's necessary in that moment is the part that gets the power.
yes,
If you know what I'm saying, if I'm in a delicate situation, the diplomatic part of me may come out, and I'll save the asshole for when I get home with my buddies.
yes.
And I'm good at that. Okay, so I have all these parts, and I'm choosing to blend into one part. Then it seems that you're suggesting,
Um,
like I am angry, I chose to blend into that. I pulled that out of the rest of me,
well, okay,
or
but the
I'd say
the
I
only
gave that.
the only thing I would suggest as a way of describing it is um, that it's more the part's decision to blend or unblend. It's not that you're choosing to do it. It's the parts because um, like parts may feel an urgent need to express that anger and frustration, and that's why they blend. Um, but it's
It
not
would
so much
blend
that
because it
you're
doesn't feel an urgent need.
sorry.
The parts would blend because it doesn't feel an urgent need. As soon as I feel that urgent need, I am angry. Um, that part now has been put out or put forward. I would really say I've been going left and right. I really should say put forward.
When you say put forward, do you mean to that it's
The
in?
part that's stepping out, the unblended part.
Um, well, okay, I think we our analogies are getting jumbled up. So so okay, try this analogy. So, when there's when you're unblended from your parts, then you're you're choosing your behavior. Like you're driving suppose you're driving a car, so you're able to drive the car as you see fit. Okay, when you're unblended, and
Okay, I'm in control. You're saying my ego, that which lives in the present moment, is in control driving the car when I'm blended.
when you're unblended, so
When
suppose
I'm
there's
unblended, excuse
yeah,
me.
suppose there's no particular part that is in the foreground. The parts are just kind of organically in the background, hanging out.
I'm
And
on automatic pilot, listening to radio, singing a favorite
yeah, you
song.
don't have any strong emotions that are prompting you to behave in a certain way. So you're driving the car. You're in control.
So the parts are emotional parts that we're talking about, not just any part.
Well, emotion is a good way to identify parts.
Well, you were pretty good at identifying my intellectual parts.
Well, right. Yeah, not all parts are emotional, but like emotion is a good signal to look for parts that may be showing up. It's
Okay.
not the only signal.
So
Yeah,
this is your technique, your approach to finding parts
right.
You're looking for
And then
emotion.
yeah, and this is just like standard IFS techniques.
Okay.
It's not really something I've come up with.
No,
Um,
no, 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 no. But I'm trying to ultimately understand the Varela Schwartz model. Um,
right.
because my model that I'm constantly reflecting off of um, is vastly different in a couple of essential respects. Um, but there's a parallel that I think is there.
Okay, but hold on. Let's get clear about
Yeah, I'm
this
not
first.
going to
So,
describe that. I want the Varela Schwartz.
okay, so going back to our driving analogy, if a part of you is frustrated or angry and feels like you're not giving it enough attention, then it may take over and control your driving. So then you would be expressing anger or frustration through your driving. Does that
like,
make
would
sense?
that be for the guy that cut me off 2 days ago, or that I would still be angry at my wife tomorrow when I'm driving and I remember that moment, go, and turn the wheel into a tree?
Well, I mean, whenever the emotion is present, so like the timing could be, anything. It could be moments after the event happens or a day later. That's not um, that's
Okay, so
not
we're
the
going, we're looking at my wife as the example.
okay.
Okay, we don't care then about the guy that cut me off yesterday because I might be immediately angry. He might play his little game, and then we're both done. He turns his way, and I go my way. Okay,
Yeah,
so
if
I'm
you're
not
done, then yeah,
emotional,
yeah, you're beyond
right?
it. Yeah,
Okay, maybe, and this is hypothetical, maybe I'm just frustrated over the years that my wife always does this. And as I'm driving tomorrow, I'm taken by a memory of today's angry moment.
okay.
And what does that do?
Well, that would call that to become blended by that angry part that's coming out of your memories, and
The
that could
angry
affect your.
part is blended into the rest of me.
Sorry.
The angry part is blended into the rest of me, or blended into my ego, or blended into something else.
Well, blended in the sense that it's controlling your behavior.
Ah, okay. So blending has to do with behavior and the control of behavior.
Yes,
So it's blending with, we could say, the outer self, the mask that I project to the world,
sure.
or um, uh, and obviously some part of the ego is tied into that, although there might be more of an egoic projection behind the mask. Um, Possibly, I'm just imagining.
Well, maybe now is a good chance to clarify what do you mean by ego? Because in my mind, ego just means a collection of parts that are um, that you often rely upon to conduct your daily life.
Well, that's of course. an important part of that. The ego, for me, is the managing agent that manages all those parts and makes them work properly, keeping them in their own place. Um, we are all many things, and we all are capable, for example, of thinking anything. And you can't admit your humanity if you haven't thought the worst possible things in the moment. What if I just stepped on her face, or something like that, and so you have that moment, it passes, and sometimes it's almost funny to you, what have you. The difference between us and criminals and nutcases is we don't choose to act on it. We recognize that it's part of the flow of thoughts, and we might psychoanalyze having that particular thought. Why step in her face instead of, break her toes, right? So we can have all these thoughts, and these are all motives, all drives inside the psyche. And all these drives, if you study the Kabbalah, kind of get worked down into 4, 5, 6 different things. But we could call two of them surely the intellect and the emotion. There's the other merciful nature and judgmental nature that gets put up. And these become the 4 principal parts of the soul for the Hebrew Kabbalist. And the center function there is Tifereth, the Blavatsky calls it the higher self. I hate that phrase. The ego, the knower. And the ego says we can use 2% of that, and 8% of that, and 6% of that, and 25% of that. The ego's balancing it all. So the ego turns around and says, I've got all these motives and drives, but I really like fishing. So the ego goes to the store and buys a fishing pole.
Okay, so I think you've described enough. I wanted to ask a clarifying question. So one thing I wanted to clarify about internal family system parts is that there could be a hierarchy. Like you could have some parts that are manager parts and other parts that are like subservient to that. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear. And then you kind of, the way you described ego, it sounded similar to what IFS would call the self. So I'm not
Yes,
sure.
it is the self, but it's the self. When you become aware of the ego motive inside of you, it's the promulgation of the self, right? We draw the ego, or speaking as a Jungian a little bit, we draw the ego as the same symbol that we draw with God. It's the circle. And so the self is the circle. And this is my problem with Eastern philosophy coming to the West, because the dissolution of self into the divine is an experience of which those words don't describe, but we can commonly refer to for those that may have had that experience.
Okay.
The dissolution of the ego is a dissolution of that controlling factor. You won't know who you are when you wake up tomorrow morning. You'll just lay there. What do I do now? Who am I? What do I gotta do? Is there a me? Who are you? When you lose the ego, you lose all identification. And if I have no identification, there's nothing to build on. Right? I identify with my first mentor as a young man, and that identification feeds something else that's deeper inside of me and helps me begin to notice who I am. Or, like for me personally, I identified with the piano and the poet, and these were things that meant a lot in the writer, and I grabbed onto a few other archetypes, but they they came they came out of me. They weren't put into me. And that's the expression of the self at work. And that self, had phenomenal awareness, right? I didn't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a piano player." No, I saw someone play the piano and it amazed me.
Mhm.
Whereas, maybe you would have sat and watched and said, "Oh, that's pretty." I was having, a deep spiritual experience.
Okay, so I think we have enough common language to move to the next thing. Although I'm a little I'm hesitant to say we're fully aligned on terminology because like your idea of ego in my mind is the way you're describing it sounds like a combination of self and maybe um, parts that are like very central, like the very core to your identity. That
Well, back to hierarchy. There are some parts that are more important to me,
hmm,
um, and that I identify with. And there are some parts I don't identify with at all. I mean, I might love to fuck my neighbor's daughter, but I don't identify with that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not likely to do that, even if given the situation,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I just don't identify with it. I don't identify with being a basketball player. I mean, being 5'4" doesn't help either. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but if you tell me, if you ask me about my spirituality, I very much invest a lot of my identity into my spirituality. I always have, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to come across to something like that. There's another part of me that very much identifies with being a comedian. And, just some people I can put into tears if I do it long enough. Um, so, um, other parts come out in the moment. I mean, I got to play the game at work. This is my first like full-time unprofessional job, and I'm in an altogether different environment where people don't mind saying the most crass things imaginable, and the level of conversation doesn't move up. Um, and so there's a jailhouse mentality there that you got to play. Uh, Whereas in a more genteel environment, a different part of me comes out. And in the same way, if you know me as um, the funny guy, you're probably going to call me PJ. If you know me as the serious guy, and so for some people, what I write is in interaction online is frightening. I'm Paul. um, and that gets to be a little bit funny. I live these two poles sometimes.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I think ego, what you're interpreting as a difference, I don't think is really that much different.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's talk about firmness and see how far we get.
Okay, this is it. Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
um, so I'm not sure where to start. Like you must have glanced at the chapter. Uh, so
Was it chapter 7? Hold on.
yeah,
I still have
chapter
some notes
seven.
from chapter 6 here. I still have all of chapter 6 here. Here's finally 7. You might be disappointed in me because I think chapter 7 came to one page of notes. Um, uh, the beginning of sexual magic. That's a sidebar note. Your orgasmic meditation, mindfulness, tantra, kundalini. Um, just notes that I made about that. I was happy to see you be very direct in talking about clitoral and penile stimulation or meditation. Just coming from this very Puritan world that we live in.
Okay,
Then
maybe we could come back to that after we do firmness because that's another good
death
example.
experience, the dissolution of boundary of the self. Ex, ex, something anxiety existential anxiety per Sartre was my note on the side there. So maybe it was just something that the way it read was just so apparent to me that I didn't see a note on it. So it seems more now that there's something I really didn't understand there
about firmness.
about firmness. So let's talk
Okay.
about firmness and
Okay. Well, maybe I could just review how the Santo Daime ceremonies are set up. Like everyone is served daime, which is the psychedelic brew, psychedelic tea, and then everyone's asked to sing hymns for until the next dose. Like usually it goes for 6 or 8 hours, something like that. And so the where firmness comes in is this the daime tea, just like other serotonergic psychedelics like LSD or psilocybin, they tend to pull you inward to a private experience of your own, like a blending with your own parts, like either you're uh, thinking about something that happened in the past and reliving it, or you may have a vision for what could happen in the future, but those visions are private. They're your personal, your personal material. And so if you are drawn into that private reverie, then you are no longer able to, like, you can lose track of where you are in the hymn. You may forget what you're singing in the lyrics.
off,
uh what's that?
walk off.
Walk
Leave the room,
off.
go somewhere else, out into the woods. Wow, there's cars here, man.
Yeah. And so this uh, uh so losing track of where you are in the hymn, in the ceremony, is what is easy for other people to notice. And then they can notice that, and either they can remind you to come back, or maybe you need to uh, go with your vision and be with your vision for a while, so they could take you out of the room and let you lie down, in
But
a
would they be so prescient? They're not all going into their only little worlds too, or people go in and out and then they help each other, the ones that are out.
yeah, the latter. People do go in and out of their private reveries, but the kind of there's an assumption that everyone uh, kind of learns through participating in the ceremonies, that the expectation is that you stay with the group, that you remain synchronized,
Soon
despite
as
the
you fall
challenge.
out of synchrony, then something gets noticed. Is this how you present a spiritual experience to witnesses?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that when you when you are absorbed in a private reverie, then that is evident to everyone else in the room, because you're no longer tracking what's going on with the group.
Okay. So we were speaking very much a different language at that point. All you're saying, by my understanding here, is that as they fall out of synchrony, we know they're having some sort of metaphysical experience, some sort of intensely emotional experience that, registers on metaphysical scales. So, um, and we can't quantify that experience. We can't qualify that experience.
Well, we
We can
can.
only observe that they're under. That could be a terrible experience. It could be an anti-spiritual experience.
Yeah, right. It could be difficult. Yeah, it the way, just you're aware, using psychedelics can bring uh, beautiful experiences, and it also can bring challenging ones. So in either case, um,
I've had
you're
both.
uh, you're disconnected from the synchrony of the group.
Okay, and it is a group right. It's not a private right. Um, so
And the other thing you said that I wanted to
and
object to is,
I just want to qualify this just a little bit more, because one of the objections, even you brought up in your book, or warnings about, group things is like coming out of the teepee after a steam thing, and I couldn't think of the word. Um, and of course, everybody has to walk. As soon as the first person says, "It was a profound experience for me," the next one too, I couldn't help myself. I was so great. And he was just sitting there bored for 20 minutes going, oh shit, when's this going to end? Um, so the interesting thing about the imbibition of the psychedelic substance, nobody can fake that.
yeah,
Everybody
that's
naturally under.
and and you were saying that we can't measure it, but and that's what I wanted to object to is that you can measure it because it's how much tea have you ingested? Like it's what was how much were you served? In
Well,
that,
I can't measure the quality of your experience or the depth of your experience. And, especially if you're a newbie, maybe you can't either.
sure,
Right?
sure.
With practice and experience, we get to realize that, I prefer Bud over Heineken, being the low class slut that I am. Um, uh, we get certain affinities, and a lot of these psychedelics are really homemade. They're not made in a pharmaceutical situation. Um, and so the recipes vary. Um, you could get the brown acid at Woodstock. Don't eat the brown acid. Um, and so there's all that. And this is a very complicated subject when it comes to that. But obviously, a guided bruja or whatever, brujo, uh, would be careful a lot about that. And there would be a certain standard before he would serve, or she.
Yeah, for sure. Like the people that serve daimi at these works are very careful to measure how much they're serving. They, they're probably testing the strength of the daimi on themselves before they serve it, to make sure that they're not going to overwhelm everybody, and that like they know how much to serve people.
I can see myself, one of those thoughts you would never act on. I can see myself standing on stage as everybody starts getting off and saying, I gave you too much. um, but, uh, okay, so you're having a psychedelic trip. Two general responses to that trip. The one
Okay.
will come out and say, everybody in the world should do this. It's the most soul, blah, blah, blah. And the other one will come out and say, this is why drugs should be illegal. I can't believe this happened to me.
Well, okay, but before we get to there, can we look at this through the Varela-Schwartz model and see which categories um, of like experiences that people are having in this kind of situation in this context?
Yeah, okay. If I could just guess a little bit, here I am, I'm in the middle of my trip. And let's just say I'm remembering my first girlfriend fondly, and how I ended that relationship, and what that means to me, and who she is to me in my current life with my current girl.
Okay.
Um,
So
so
and
my
does
identity
that memory
changes
distract
with this
this
old lover's nostalgia,
okay.
right?
And so does that nostalgia is it sufficient to distract you from the hymn that you're singing now? Like, are you able
Yeah,
to
let's say
hold
that
that?
it is. I've now started stuttering. God bless America. Okay.
Okay,
And
right.
I'm not really present in what I'm doing.
Okay, so that means that you would be blended with that nostalgic part, since it's starting to control your behavior, and then other people in the group would be like the guardians, and the more experienced members uh, would be noticing that from a second person outward perspective. That's the perspective where we can like empathy, try to inquire and clarify what's going on with the people in the room. So if I was you know, watching watching people in the room, then I might notice, oh, Paul is losing track
Fucked
of,
up.
and uh, maybe I would try to catch your eye to bring you back, or maybe it's too big a memory and you need to step out and process that nostalgia outside the group, and then come back when you're ready to rejoin.
Um, or maybe I'm just so far out of it at this point that I'm fully absorbed in my blending, right? I've now
Right.
blended myself with this memory.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's overriding your behavior. Like, you're not able to stay with the group, like be in rhythm. So it's blended.
I don't give a
That's the
damn
test.
about the group at this point.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
completely self-absorbed, right?
Yes.
And so let's just say that, I'm for the moment irretrievably absorbed in this. So that now I've in this unblending, um, I pulled this part out of myself. I'm infatuated with this part of myself. Let's call it the romantic hero that I've made myself into at this point.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm doing a little swashbuckling and that kind of thing. I'm totally wrapped up in this. Um, to the point that now I've forgotten myself. I've forgotten my obligation to the group, and other things that um are a part of my ego, right? My word is my bond. I've given the group uh, you know, uh my promise, and now I'm utterly breaking my promise. Maybe I'm screaming at the ceiling, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yelling in the corner, Paul's fucked up. Um, and so I have become totally blended with this character.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the unblending would be to separate myself from this character.
Okay. Yeah. So um, suppose you're with that part for, I don't know, to 15 or 20 minutes, and you get through it, and then you come back to the group, and then that part is no longer uh, blended. You've managed to address its needs for the time being, and you're able to unblend from it and return to the group, and figure out where we are in the handbook, and uh, and resume your contribution.
You get to the handbook. I'm coming down now, quick. What do you do when you come down? uh, Okay, I think I had a complete misunderstanding about blending and unblending. We're not creating the two egos, so to speak. I'm simply taking my identity and putting it into this blended character. I'm blending it with this character that's not
Yes.
really me. The I am is not really angry. It's an emotion I am is experiencing at the moment, but we can either identify with it or not identify with it. I can either blend with it or unblend from it.
Yeah. That sounds sounds like we're on the same page now.
Okay, now we're in pure therapy, really. Okay, and
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with it. The first step on any spiritual line is mental health and the therapy that you need to get from it. Before I start having amazing spiritual experiences, I really want to be sure that I'm not psychotic, right? So that's an over dramatization, but still, even the tiniest little character flaw, shall we say, can be, a great hammer to the left temple. You know what I'm saying? In the midst of a spiritual experience, it can really destroy it or destroy you in the process, right?
Yeah, right. That's how psychedelics can amplify your inner experience. The classical psychedelics.
Okay, so now you're producing these psychedelic experiences. A group of people, group of your patients get together, and they're sitting around. They all consume and start chanting the songs. They know all this. They've had their blended experience, and then they've unblended from that experience, and we hope between those two poles somehow they found the transcendent point. They were able to rise above both themselves and themselves having this experience. Um, and or themselves and this particular drive, and so they're trying to reach some other point where they now have what, a greater understanding of themselves.
So I think you're asking like suppose we have these Santo Daime ceremonies over and over again, like what are people what's the output of that? Like if I'm
No,
not
I'm only
becoming
asking
blended
about
or
one experience, only one
okay,
experience.
okay,
So
one
in
ceremony.
this experience, I blended with I am angry. We'll go back to that. In this experience, I blended with I am angry. And by the end of this experience, I worked it out so that now I've unblended from that experience.
Okay.
So now I have two polar perspectives, right?
Um sure, like you had the perspective where you were blended with that part, and then you have the perspective when you're back more in self and control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, now I know as a little boy that when I slap my buddy and he runs home crying to mommy, I did a bad thing. And so now I feel both uh, the whatever anger that was then, and I feel maybe contrition now because I'm being punished or whatever. Let's not psychoanalyze that. Um, and so now that I have these two perspectives, my growth is a third point. At first you spank the child to teach the child that it's doing something bad, has bad manners. Eventually, the child learns why that's bad manners and doesn't want to be slapped himself, and matures to the point that they are polite now for the sake of being polite, not for the sake of avoiding punishment. First
Right,
they
yeah. So there's like a an understanding of that social people pleasing impulse to the extent that it's like a intrinsically motivated, not motivated by extrinsic
Well, the
consequences.
narcissistic child, and what child isn't? The narcissistic child first behaves properly and no longer slaps Johnny because he doesn't want to go home and get punished. That's the only reason, right? Eventually, after being punished, he eventually figures out, because maybe the same thing is done to him, let's just say, and so he begins to figure out why he shouldn't do that and why it's wrong. Not and so he starts not just want to be people pleasing, not just want to be good, but he starts to truly understand proper manners and why we do it. Why we don't just shoot someone in the middle of the street because we're mad at them today, right?
Yeah,
Um, and he understands that's for his good as much as everybody else's good. He understands his role as a citizen in a polis, um, And would be a transcendent experience, right? Because it's no longer avoid punishment. It's no longer I just want to slap you. It's this third point that now is evolved.
Okay. And so how do we bring this back to firmness?
Well, we haven't discussed firmness yet, so I can't bring it back to firmness. Just like I can't do a layup in the middle of Madison Square Garden.
Okay,
So
so
tell me
having had all these learnings, having to kind of like socialized into the expectations of society and developed some wisdom around that, then how would you behave in a Santo Daime work?
well, either I might have if I was to focus on that, I might have a confirmational experience that gives me validation and affirmation, or helps me to see my maturity when my maturity was still a little bit unconscious. I was doing the right thing, and deep down I really knew, but it wasn't something that became part of my outer character yet, right? Or maybe I haven't gotten to that point yet, and I'm having a negative experience for that. Or maybe I've put it all away, and I'm now focusing on something else at my second, Daime T experience, right? The
Okay,
point
so
is, the drug brought the blending and the unblending, right?
well, I'm not sure the drug did the unblending, but it so um, you blended the drug helped blend or influenced you to blend with the part, and then through working with the part, understanding the part, building trust with the part, then um, it trusts you more to stay unblended and be self-led. Is that what you mean, or?
Well, obviously, if this is a valuable experience, it would be that we blended into whatever the spirit of the herb wanted me to focus on.
Okay,
And then I unblended from it coming down from the drug,
yeah,
perhaps,
that
or
could be
perhaps, or perhaps not even coming down from the drug. I worked out whatever issue that blending presented.
right.
I started to see that blending from maybe an objective experience, maybe from a preternatural or archetypal experience of some sort. Um, Maybe my own inner intuition began to flower because of this, right? These are
Sure.
all things attached to and possible with this kind of experience. Of
Yep.
course, the other side of that is I could have the quote unquote bad trip. And now I'm having a nightmare and I'm blending with that. And there are people that have gotten lost in that nightmare,
Yeah.
the acid casualties,
Yeah.
as they
Yeah.
say.
No, that's a that's a danger. But hopefully we can um, address the fears, um, like the basics of mental health can be addressed in talk therapy, and that when you come to uh, a ceremony where the psychedelics are used, hopefully you've address the fears that could lead to a bad trip, so that um, like that there's uh, the odds of having a spiraling into a panic attack or something like that are reduced.
But of course, if I'm completely blended with that character that you're taking me out of the room, I may be in a catatonic state. I can't speak to you. I'm lost in my nightmare.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
so I wouldn't be able to speak to you until our next actual therapy session.
yes. Yeah, so it's like hopefully you would try to address the risk of spiraling in a panic attack, like before attending
Well, I'm not
a
calling this
Santa
a
Daime
panic
ceremony.
attack. I'm talking, a traumatic. memory that induces that bad trip, right?
Hmm.
And so, well, I remember my second band. I was still in college, and me and my buddy had a phase where we were experimenting with angel dust, and we really tended to like it. It's very pungent, and you mixed it in with a little bit of you smoked it. And the first couple of times I smoked it, it was fabulous. I'm in any kind of psychedelic experience, I have, um, profound things that go on in my head, and I really get something out of it. And I can remember even, I think at the end of the second time, I was sitting down on my bed in my bedroom and looking. I had a full wall of books, and they looked like they were underwater, like I was looking at them in a fish tank. And I was coming down from the drug, and it was just feeling so good. The third time I did it, and I did it a fourth time just to check. Both times I went into this unbelievably bad trip. I was the worst person who was ever born. I don't deserve a life. My life is going nowhere. I'm useless. I mean, I probably found things 10 times worse to say about myself.
Hmm.
And, I didn't see why I needed to live. And the first time I thought, okay, bad trip. The second time I realized it wasn't just bad trip. The drug is an unstable thing. Um, but also, as I came out of it, I had that negative transcendent experience. And part of that was, um, I don't need to do this kind of a drug anymore. This is really stupid. I'm not going to do something that makes me want to kill myself. I want to do something that's going to enhance what I'm doing. And that really changed the whole focus of my approach to drugs in general. Coming from a social culture where drugs was just a social culture, even though I knew much more by that point, um, I was still a part of the social culture. Pre-Reagan, wonderful time.
Okay. um, let's see. And angel dust is similar to ketamine, right?
I don't honestly know. Was ketamine called Special K?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I did Special K twice. Two kind of roommates. I was moving between places, and they stayed at a boarding house and put my stuff in storage. And these were two young kids, and they gave me Special K, and we watched The Wizard of Oz to Pink Floyd, and it was fucking amazing. I gotta say, um, it was like moving experience. Um, but that's horse tranquilizer.
Right. No,
Okay.
but it's like at a
So
low
I'm like,
dose.
okay, I had fun and I'm done.
Yeah. But so listening to you describe your experience, like it sounds like there was a self-critical part, a part that felt worthless, that uh, you felt very
But
vividly.
angel dust isn't ketamine. The two drugs are completely different.
Oh, did you
Okay.
look it up?
Angel dust is a harsh chemical that's poured onto oregano, and it's even a little bit slimy as you put it in the joint. Um, and it's
Mm.
boldly chemical. Where if I remember properly, I don't remember that we smoked ketamine or that we consumed it in a pill. I don't
Mhm.
remember.
Uh, okay, maybe I'll just look it up real quick. Let's see, angel dust versus ketamine. Ketamine, can't spell.
You guess they're really different. What they
Um,
say is angel dust, car tonic.
okay, PCP. Angel dust is it's a relative of ketamine. PCP is more potent, longer lasting, and prone to causing agitation compared to ketamine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
So
it's the same family.
my drug because I love that. I really did. But it's just like my psychedelic days had really come to an end. I tested it a couple of times. Once when I was about 50, and I
Yeah,
just like it anymore. I don't have a
yeah.
place. Smoke it in
Okay,
my mouth.
but But like that's it's being used to treat depression nowadays, like a not PCP, but ketamine. You must be aware of that.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm more than aware of it. I understand. As a matter of fact, not that I'm depressed, but I would really love to find some microdose. I wonder if I could talk to my doctor. I always joke to him I want pharmaceutical cocaine. But I just think it would be fun to see what I might experience, say, in meditation or some kind of magical ritual, induced by this such a light dose that I keep the focus where I want my focus, keep my mind going, right? Because
Mm,
stronger psychedelic takes you out of that,
right.
takes you out of being unblended.
Yeah. Okay. So back